Hello, extra time.
They point to the league not to get a high because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read, they just laugh at you.
The single club, they're playing in the League One and they're playing in the Europa League and they're credit to the game in this country. Maybe we should get Stephen Kenny then to manage the Irish team.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the extratime.com podcast with Luke Jordan. Delighted to see Macdara Ferris alongside me again. Macdara, how are you?
I'm good, Luke. How are you getting on?
Not too bad. I just flew up the M1 back home.
Yeah, we're recording something nice a little bit later than possible because football fixtures got in the way. Went extra time up in Headland Game Park between Bradley United and Shamrock Rovers, and Andy Lyons popped up with the winner. So it didn't go to penalty kicks. But yeah, so Rovers go into the quarter-final of the Cup with the other, I think, 5 Premier Division teams, and then this I think 2 First Division teams in the Cup. So we'll probably chat a little bit about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, you broke your code for no colours in the press box last week. Currently wearing a Rovers shirt.
Oh yeah, well I was in the away section and got to walk across the pitch at the end of the game. That's the way the Gardaí directed us. And then the very long way around the Gaelic games, we couldn't go back via the hospital to where I parked my car, so I won't be parking my car that side next time. But yeah, so the joy of it was a real girls' league in the world stuff, being able to just walk across the pitch at the end of the game, as directed by the steward and Gardaí.
It looked a decent atmosphere going by Twitter. I've seen the goals going in. It looked like a good atmosphere of the game. Yeah,
like it was. I presume it was pretty much a sellout. Certainly, Rovers sold their 550 tickets in the away section, and yeah, there's always a good atmosphere up there because you've a roof low over your head, both if you're in the home end or in the stand or in the away section. So yeah, and it was a really decent game. Drogheda maybe feel a little bit unlucky they couldn't get the win, and they certainly played, I think, probably the better team in the second half anyway.
Did Dean Williams celebrate?
Did he celebrate? I think he did. Yeah, I think he's gone long enough out of Rovers that yeah, people didn't. It didn't really pass much of a remark. But yeah, he did celebrate when he scored, and you can be certain that Andy Lyons celebrated when he got an extra time winner at the end as well.
Yeah, it's actually probably a good point to say. We've a bit of audio from the game, Stephen Bradley and Kevin Doherty, but first, Andy Lyons, have a listen.
Scores Shamrock Rovers' second goal, number 22, Andy Lyons.
Talk me through that one there.
Yeah, no, look, numbers doesn't matter in that kind of way. It's obviously just an important goal. Thankfully, I've got it. If it wasn't me, it was definitely going to be someone else. So, it's, as I said, it's a really tough place to come. We knew coming to this fixture that it was going to be a really tough game, and they didn't disappoint. It's a really tough fixture, tough venue. We came here earlier on the season and we obviously lost. So I said it was always going to be tough. Obviously it went to extra time, and thankfully I got the goal. But as I said, it was a well worked, hard-earned victory, I suppose. Coming into the first half, we probably edged it a bit, had some chances after we got an early goal, but in fairness to them, they came back into the game and they were really good, really tough side to play against. So as I said, we're into the next round, that's the main thing.
Is goal something that you wanted to get more of this season? Is it something that you put a particular concentration on, or has it just kind of worked out that way?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a particular concentration. I think obviously with the position that I'm playing in, it probably allows me to get into positions where I may have the chance to score more. But I said my mindset wasn't going in saying that I want to score a certain amount of goals and stuff like that. Obviously I set realistic targets, but I think the position probably allows me to get into them areas. And the people around me, look, they put the ball in the play for me more times than not. I suppose thankfully I've finished one again tonight, but look, into the next round is the main thing.
I'm not sure how you define yourself, but the term wing back is kind of deceptive now in modern football, isn't it? You're a wing back / wing forward, aren't you?
Yeah, look, it's, I suppose many teams play it, and some teams play it differently. Some players, defensively, obviously you still have to defend. So, and then going forward, you're kind of offering that winger role, I suppose. I said, thankfully, I'm in areas where I can score, and thankfully I've managed to grab a few. But I said the main thing is the team performance, and I think we've came here tough fixture, tough team, and thankfully we got the win, and we got out here with a win.
Andy, I'll wrap it up very shortly because you've done a few interviews, and fair play to you for hanging around. The draw for the Conference League was made during the week. What did you make of it?
Yeah, look, I said, first of all, it's brilliant to be in the group stages. I think what an achievement that is. So, look, we were under no illusions it was going to be a tough draw, and I think it is absolutely a tough draw, but it's something that we're absolutely relishing. You know, we're really looking forward to it, and what experience it's going to be. But I suppose before then, we've got to look to the league. We've some really big games, and before Europe, we've got to win our league game. So, yeah, we're looking forward to Bows next week, and that's the big one for us now.
Is it a confidence booster for players individually to go toe-to-toe with good European teams and come through it as you have done, even in ties that you haven't got through? Okay, there was maybe the exception of 1 or 2 away games, but at home you've matched and bettered everyone. Yeah,
look, I suppose you want to test yourself, don't you, in that kind of way? Obviously, you know, Europe is the stage to do it, and you want to test yourself, and thankfully you've done that. Obviously our home record has been really good, but obviously, you know, in away ties sometimes they've got away from us. So look, we've learned plenty from home ties, from away ties, and thankfully we're going to the group stages now with a bit of experience, like, you know, that kind of way. So yeah, look, we're looking forward to it, and as I said, it's great to test yourself against really good sides.
And just finally, I think it says this is more of a statement than a question, but you can answer it anyway. I think it says an awful lot about this team that even though you look good to win the league, I know you don't take it for granted, you're in the Conference League group stages, so you don't kind of need the cup. Your season didn't hang on it, but you still put in some shift today.
Yeah, no, look, we want to win every game, every competition. We just see it as the next game, and I think that's the kind of culture that's been created here. And certainly when I came here, that's what I realised. You know, every game we go into, we want to get the win, and thankfully we're into the next round of the cup. And as I said, we're looking forward to the league next week. But you know, every game we go into, it's the same mindset to win the game. And just finally, that Bows game on Friday night, is that just another game for you, or is it a bit different given that it's your former club and of course it is Bows Rovers? Yeah, no, look, I think if you treat it as another game, that's the way it'll go. Mentally, you've got to be ready for it, but as I said, it's just another game. It's another game of the league. It's another game that we want to go and win. I don't look into it too much. The team doesn't look into it too much. It's just the next team that we're looking to get a win against. And I said, whether that be in the Cup, Europe or the league, you know, we're going to be ready for it. We're going to be looking forward to it. We're going to recover tomorrow and get ready for it.
Andy, well done today. Thank you. Kevin Doherty, Drogheda manager, a 2-1 defeat after extra time to Shamrock Rovers. Are you unlucky to be out of the Cup?
Yeah, I think so. Thought from the start of the second half we were excellent. Physically we pushed on. We started, and our intensity was a lot better, but our quality was really good as well. I thought Jack Bourne was in the second half, or in the first half, was sort of the difference a little bit, dictated it a little bit too much. But then we got way better, and we pushed on a little bit. And, yeah, got a good goal and pushed on. I thought, like, so many dangerous moments, a couple of headers, and to be honest, at that stage I thought we were the only one that might actually win it, or else it would go to penalties. But again, even I just seen their second goal back there, and it takes a ricochet. They were probably quite lucky, but look, as soon as the draw was made, I knew there was a fair chance that we could end up going out of the cup, but we gave it a good shot.
You look safe in the Premier Division. You're shaking your head as I say that. The reason I'm bringing it up, and I suppose you know the question I'm about to ask here, is does this take the air out of the season a little bit? Is it hard to motivate when you look like you've got your job done?
No, honestly, I just said it to your colleague there. We're not, like, it's only taken a couple of wins and Finn Harps are right behind you, or UCD are right behind you, so we're not safe. We would like to, of course, push on and start looking up the table, but until we do that, I think we're well capable of doing it, because of, you can see the quality and the talent and how well the players are playing. And we've been on a great run. Again, if that sounds stupid to say, but that's a league match. To draw against Shamrock Rovers, another one. So it wasn't. So we're out of the cup. No, there'll be no worries motivating the lads at all, because, as I said, they're a really good bunch of lads. We're a tight group because we've such small numbers, to be fair. But no, we'll dust ourselves off and we go again. I'm actually in training tomorrow.
I haven't got to see too much in the flesh this year, but Dara Markey was excellent tonight. Evan Weir, excellent tonight. Keith Cowan, a guy who many people thought was done with the League of Ireland when he went to Dungannon, excellent tonight. And there are others as well. Colin McCabe won your Integral of Fitness and Leisure Man of the Match award. And again, there are more I could mention. That's a really good sign for you, that there's so many guys standing up and performing well individually, and of course then they gel as a team, and that's what a manager wants.
Yeah, of course, because again, we had to rebuild the team. All those players that you mentioned weren't here last year, bar Colin McCabe, but he didn't play, so we had to rebuild quickly and get lads in. As you say, had to try and, I literally just came into my head about Keith. I was wondering where he was and found him in Dungannon. And said he was 37 during the week, so he's some man to playing 120 minutes like that. And give him a few days off now before Sligo. But now we've got to, just as I said, to try and get back in, lick our wounds. We're out of the cup. I mean, we could have something. I thought a few things went against us tonight, but look, it's unlucky we just move on.
I want to talk about player development. Andrew Quinn partnered with Keith at the back. He has evolved nicely as the season has moved on. Maybe made a couple of errors at the start of the season, but he looked really solid tonight. I mean, it shows how strong he is mentally and how good you are to bring players on, that he was able to come up with a performance like that tonight.
Yeah, well, look, again, he's learned, and he deserves full credit for that. He did make a couple of mistakes earlier in the season, but since then he's been excellent. But he can't get comfortable. He has to keep learning, because I think he can go very far if he just keeps learning and keeps doing the right stuff, which he is. So having Keith beside him, or sometimes Dane it is beside him as well. Like, I mean, you're learning off two lads and getting that experience. It's like, you know, if you didn't learn off them, then you would be doing something wrong. But he's a lot of attributes. Pace, so pacey. Once he's like that, once he's aggressive, because he's a good kid and a quiet kid at times, but once he's aggressive, he can be anyone he wants to be.
Kevin Doherty, thank you very much. Hard luck today.
Thank you.
Stephen Bradley, you're into the Europa Conference League group stages. You look good to win another league title, although I know you don't take that for granted. So the season wasn't riding on today, but it says an awful lot about your team that they put in the shift they did to get through this.
Yeah, I think it shows the desire and the hunger that's in the dressing room. You know, they've just come off the back of a really hectic schedule the last 6 weeks, and they've gone into extra time there and dug it out, like, you know. So I think it shows the hunger and desire within the group and the character.
Was fatigue an issue today, or was it so many changes, or is it a mix? It's just very hard to play high intensity games so close together, and we saw that with Linfield today, for example. They lost a character.
Well, first half I thought we were brilliant, to be honest. I thought the game should have been over in the first half, the play and the chances we had. And then second half, we stopped playing, we stopped pressing, and it became an even game. But like I said, we had to show different quality, and we did that second half in extra time, and we obviously go and win it. So, yeah, delighted with the players.
You signed Andy Lyons as a striker, right?
Yeah, look, he's been excellent. He's got a real eye for goal. He's got a real hunger and desire to score goals. And we knew he'd improve us and help us, and he's obviously come and done that.
And just before I let you go, there's fixtures tomorrow night. Will you go along to them? Will you kick back at home? And what do you do on a non-match day for your team when there's other teams playing? Because I imagine you're tempted to go to one of them. Just which one will you go to? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'll go to a game tomorrow night. I'll have a look at them. And I'll definitely go to one of them. I'll see which one tomorrow, really. See which one my wife lets me go to.
And Friday is a big one as well, of course.
Yeah, another big game. Bowls, obviously, Dublin Derby. We want to go there, obviously, and win the game. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Get in touch. You can email us at extratimelive@gmail.com or tag us on Instagram using the hashtag League of Ireland, or tweet us at ExtraTimeNews.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so that was the voices of Stephen Bradley, Kevin Doherty and Andy Lyons. And just a quick one before we go on to the results. Andy Lyons, a man currently in good form.
Yeah, he got the goal on Thursday night that gave Rovers their fourth win from their 4 home games in Europe. That was another late goal. That was a header, but this one was a well taken shot from outside the area. But yeah, he was in a rich goal scoring form at the start of the season, and maybe went a bit quiet. But yeah, like I think that's 7 or 8 goals he's got for the season. I think maybe 8 goals for the season. So yeah.
Yeah, he's especially as well, he's not playing on his natural side. That's also important to remember. He is a right-footed player and he's playing off the left, so he's constantly to cut in. And he's doing a great job this year, just from an outsider's point of view. Yeah,
and Neil Farrugia came off the bench and he played on the right, even though he's left-footed. So Stephen Bradley's looking to set them up with kind of the wing-backs cutting in onto their better foot.
Yeah, and last one actually before we move on, Jack Byrne starting today. How do you look?
Yeah, he looked good. He started so everything was kind of going through him. I think he played for maybe about an hour, maybe 65 minutes, and he was they made a triple substitution at that point. So yeah, it's great to see him back on the pitch. He was pretty good again when he came on and played in Europe. He was a sub in the Ferencváros game at home as well. So yeah, hopefully he'll get a little bit more fitness back, and big part to play, I'm sure, in the European games to come for Rovers.
Yeah, we'll chat more about that now in a few minutes. Just a quick run through the results here. So Galway United 2, UCD 3, Wexford FC, 2, Dundalk 3, Derry City 2, Cork City 0, Luke United 0, Bows 2, Monaghan United 0, Shells 4, Malahide 0, Waterford 6, Minute Universe Town 0, Treat United 3, and as we already said, Drogheda United 1, Shamrock Rovers 2. No cup upset this week, but a couple of close ones. Obviously, pretty Wexford actually got Dundalk the extra time. Obviously, can lose the next time there. I think it was a Robbie Benson goal, pretty sharp penalty. And then obviously, the one I kind of thought maybe there could have been an upset there was Galway taking UCD, like I mentioned off air, but looks like no real cup upset this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, the only Premier Division tie was the game today, as we record on Sunday, between Drogheda and Shamrock Rovers, and then the others were either Premier Division versus First Division, or there were some non-league sides, but they went out. Wexford seemed to play really well. Ger Short, I think, got a couple of goals for Wexford, and took the game to extra time, but again, didn't go to penalties. Yeah, the Galway UCD game seemed to be a really good one as well, and Galway are going well in the First Division. UCD down the bottom of the Premier Division. I suppose that was the one that maybe people were thinking of, but they got through. So yeah, as I said, the quarterfinal will have 2 First Division teams and 6 Premier Division teams, and I think that draws on Tuesday on Game On.
It's interesting because you see obviously a commentator's moment. Remember a couple of years ago we've seen let's say the clubs top end reckon they were better in the First Division clubs, but I think the gap's widened a lot the last 2 or 3 years, just from purely going FAI Cup results.
Yeah, it has, and it's all about the timing of when the cup is on. So previous years they used to play a couple of rounds of the cup early in the League of Ireland season, towards the end of the likes of the Leinster Senior League and Munster Senior League season, and then you'd come back after that. And then what was happening was a lot of the non-league teams, there is a bit of churn between players from one season to the next, maybe more than in other leagues. And so you come back and it's kind of a different side that has to turn out midway through the cup competition. So they moved everything towards the second half of the League of Ireland season. But then what that means is you have teams that are out of, they're only coming back into their pre-season, which was one of the reasons why they kind of moved away the quarterfinal from that point as well. So I think it's very hard when we've seen it a little bit with the All Ireland competition that they haven't been able to agree any dates because neither side wants to kind of play when they're not in their off season, and then there's a little bit it's their end of the season as well. I think there's obviously some very good players playing in the Leinster Senior League who definitely could be playing in the First Division. Sometimes it suits them in terms of a work situation to play, and they're happy enough to maybe play non-league and maybe pick up some expenses if I can put it like that. But I think in terms of fitness, certainly with the Premier Division teams, they're pretty much all full time, not quite, and pretty much training in the morning, that type of stuff. And if you look at strength and conditioning, nutrition, rest and recuperation, versus someone who's going out and working, I know we do have players who do that in the League of Ireland as well, but just think it makes it much more difficult.
Yeah, and I think also a big factor as well is, like you mentioned, is kind of the timing of the seasons. Obviously, the LSL will go, for example, is still winter football, starts as in August now. First weekend kicked off with junior football, intermediate last weekend. And obviously, the League of Ireland kicks off in February. And it was funny when I was at the formation meeting for the LSL in June, I'm going to say end of June, only 6 or 7 clubs voted to go Canada football, and I think 80 clubs or so voted to go to remain with the Winter League. So until that disconnect's probably sorted in football in Ireland between, we'll probably come back to this point another day about kind of the third division and can we link with the pyramid structure, but until we can have a structure or a calendar that suits all Irish football, this is what's going to happen. And it's just interesting debate to discuss maybe in a future point. But what we'll do is we'll move on, actually, because we've a bit of interesting stuff obviously around the Europa Conference Day. The draw was done this week. Rovers now know their opponents. Maybe a brief run through the opponents, Macdara, if you can.
Yes, so they got Ghent were the top seeds that came out of pot 1. Rovers were in pot 3. Mull, the Norwegian side, pot 2, and then Djurgårdens came out of pot 4. and they don't really have a European pedigree. They had never qualified for group stages. They played in the Intertoto Cup back in the 90s, but that was like he basically played a one-legged tie against 3 or 4 teams. Rovers played them in 2002 and lost 5-1 in aggregate. Ghent played Champions League, played Europa League last few years as well. And Molde are a decent side. People remember maybe that they played against Sligo Rovers. So they're decent enough. They're actually they're sitting top of the Norwegian League, and in the last 5 years they've been runners up 4 times and champions 1 time back in 2019. So they're a decent side. They actually played in Tallaght Stadium before. They were in Dundalk's group in 2020, and Dundalk played that tie in Tallaght Stadium. But I say Ghent are probably they're the best side. They were in the Europa League last year, and they're also in the Champions League in 2015. So just a couple of things from the draw. Rovers got 8 p.m. kickoffs for home game. I know they're very happy with that. When they played in the Europa League in 2011, they had 6 o'clock kickoffs, some of the home games, including one of them was 6 o'clock one against Spurs on the 15th of December. And it was loads of people were late for kickoff, myself included. And even just trying to sell the tickets for some of the other games as well. So the away games are all 5:45 Irish time. And then I was just having a look at more. It's not all about the money. It's about the matches and pitting yourself against these fine teams from continental Europe, but you get rewarded with it. So I was looking at the money. So it's 3.607 million that Rovers have got, including €267,000, which I wasn't really aware of that they get from this 10-year coefficient. So that was money I wasn't aware of. And then there's a funny one where people probably know if you get a win in the Conference League, it's 500,000. And a draw is 166,000. So when there's a draw, they pay that 166,000 to the 2 teams involved, and they don't just pocket the difference between a draw and a win. So they actually take the remaining 166,000 and they pool that, and they distribute it between the teams based on the number of wins. So Rovers potentially can pick up more money if they can get a win, and then some of the other games end in draws, even though they're not involved in. And then the other one was the TV pool money, which comes right at the end of the competition. And just to put what it could be, back in 2016, Dundalk 583,000 for that when they were playing in the Europa League. And 2 years ago, when they were in the Europa League, they got 343,000. So you're presuming Rovers will get in and amount that as well. So, but Stephen Bradley talked about the draw being a difficult draw. They kind of avoided some of the really big teams. West Ham were mentioned and Villarreal, but I think the Ghent game probably the most difficult one. But I think to be confident they can maybe pick up some points along the way. Only the top two go through. The winners of the group go through to the last 16, and whereas the runners up in the group, they go to the last 32, and they play the teams that drop out of the Europa League from the group stages. Those teams will finish 3rd place, but maybe that's getting a little bit ahead of myself. But that's the way the draw is. But I think certainly talking to Rovers fans and people booking trips, the one to Ghent, which is the first away game, is on the Thursday, the 15th September. There'd be a pretty big crowd going to that one. That's pretty easy to get to via Brussels, via Charleroi, Amsterdam, and whatever. And then Djurgårdens, they're playing is away. Is the very last game, so trip to Stockholm. So the Molde one is a bit more difficult to get to. It's kind of it's another flight up from Oslo. But if people may have seen some pictures of the ground, Philip O'Connor, the Irish journalist who works in Sweden, he put a picture of it, and the stadium looks absolutely amazing. It's down on the coast with the mountains in the background. It looks pretty spectacular. So I think the draw. I think Rovers are pretty much, we're kind of happy enough with it. I think they'll be confident they might be able to take certainly some points, and certainly Stephen Bradley's been talking about, they're not just going there to take part, they're there to win some games and ultimately trying to look to qualify. Those that are into the last 32 is the middle of February.
I thought you were going to quote there certain martial arts fighter when you said we're not here to take part. We're here to take over.
Definitely. I'm not going to quote him. No, we'll move on quickly.
No, it's interesting though, looking at obviously the teams in the group. Obviously the Ghent are obviously the top seed in it. But then you look at someone like Malda. I mean, Dundalk played them only 2 years ago, if even no 2 years ago, this Christmas actually. And even watching those games, like a Dundalk team that you could see was in decline, but like realistically, in the home game in particular, should have took something from it. Obviously looking at your Gardens, again, I can't comment, haven't seen much of them play, but did get through a decent Applewell side who always have decent European pedigree in the playoff rounds. So they're going to be no pushovers either. So there's a couple of ways to take away from that.
Yeah, like they won to get to that stage. They won 3 rounds, and they're sitting third in the table in Sweden now. So that kind of shows shows what they're like. But I said in terms of the European pedigree, they've played a fair amount of European games over the last season, but without going to the group stages. But you can say the same thing about Shamrock Rovers.
No, it's interesting. Where do you stand on, if you were to take off your journalism hat and put on your Shamrock Rovers hat for the time being, where do you stand on the point of you'd rather maybe a top team to come to Tala, say for example West Ham or Villarreal? Would you prefer that?
No,
I
would. I wouldn't really like West. There's just the whole thing about an English team. That's what, like, there are Irish football supporters who do support West Ham. It's not like a Liverpool or Manchester United or an Arsenal, but there was that thing about, would they move the game to the Aviva? And, they got confirmation just ahead of last Thursday's games that all the matches will be in Tallaght Stadium. But the idea of going to a game where there's a whole load of Irish fans supporting the opposition and, a lot of, if it was West Ham that have travelled over in huge numbers and that have picked up tickets, all sorts of things, particularly if it was in the Aviva Stadium. But I probably would have fancied a trip to Fiorentina. Were in Group 2. I kind of would have fancied that, and maybe a trip to Germany. Like talking to someone this evening, they were like, "Oh, back to Scandinavia." Rovers have played in Norway, played in Finland, class Iceland as Scandinavian, but they've kind of been that direction, and maybe somewhere a little bit different. But they could have ended up in all sorts of places. There was Kosovo, there was Armenia, but I kind of, Villarreal would have been maybe a good one to get to. Again, I'm thinking of traveling to a game, but I wouldn't. Ghent are a very good side. Are they much better than the likes of Ludogorets or Slovan Bratislava or even Ferencváros, who Rovers have all beaten at home? Admittedly, in ties where they've been kind of the away team has come to Tallaght for the second leg with a 3-1 or even a 4-0 lead in their back pocket. But Rovers have got results against pretty good teams at home, so that's probably where you'd look at. Whereas going to Ghent and trying to get a result maybe obviously a bit more difficult.
What is a good Europa Conference League campaign with Shamrock Rovers this year?
I think if you look at what Dundalk did in 2016, where they won a game, drew a game, and went, I think, into the last game still with a shot at going through. I think that would be good. And I remember in 2016 they were well beaten in most of the games. Probably Pauw away was the one where they lost 2-1. And I remember when Dundalk qualified in 2016, I thought, Dundalk, I don't think they get a result, but actually they were excellent. They got there was a draw in their first game away to AZ. Kieran Culduff scored, and then they won the second game, and then they were winning against Zenit in the third game. So I think 4 points. Going back to the money, there's 2/3 of a million at that point if they can get 4 points just on that point alone. But I don't know. Like, what do you reckon? Do you think it's realistic that they could finish runner up in a group potentially if results go their way?
I think they have to go in with that mindset. I think they can't go in defeated. I don't think they will. I think the home games are crucial. They have a very good record in Tallaght, even beating. I'm not going to bother pronounce. I can never pronounce the team the night Thursday night.
The Hungarian champions.
Hungarian champions. Like, I mean, I know. Look, the game was dead in a sense that they would have had to get 2 early goals, put pressure on them.
Yeah.
But they done well. They got the result, and you can see the celebration in the end. Obviously, because again, it was a big result. The club beating the other side in Europe. I think it's very realistic. I think the start's crucial. I think the first 2 games in Tallaght, like, if they can pick up 4 points from 2 home games, and then go into other games away, and can we nick a draw on the break? Can we get the 5-6 points? And then there may be a hope Ghent pull away, Malda and Djurgården take points off each other, and Rovers then going to try to get that second spot. That's probably the most realistic route. You don't want probably Ghent dropping too many points. You probably want Ghent to pull away, defeat the other teams over the 4 games. Can Rovers take a draw away from home? And obviously, maybe you lose to Ghent at home, fair enough. But if they take points off the other sides, that's probably your best pathway to get to the group stage, or to the knockout stage rather. But look, I think what we don't want to see is, we don't want the season Dog 2020 and Shamrock Rovers playing 11 finishing with 0 points. I think that's what they don't want to achieve. Like you said, if we can get to the stage where we can start competing, I think Rovers have shown that. They have shown they can compete against these sides. I mean, they've done it at home. There's no reason to why now they can't do this in a group stage competition where ideally the pressure's off them. Like there's their third seeds, they're not even seen as a team to go through. The pressure's on Molde to go through the group because they are the second seed side. So I'm actually looking forward to games. I'd love to get up to one. Hopefully, if there's tickets still available, if the Rovers aren't showing, if the Rovers fans don't sell them all, it'd be nice to get to a game or two. But it'd be nice. I think it'd be great for the club. And great for the league, to be honest. I can say that as a league fan. Like, I think it'd be great if they could push to the final game like Dundalk and try achieve group stage qualification or get into the knockout phase.
Get in touch. You can email us at extratimelive@gmail.com or tag us on Instagram using the hashtag League of Ireland, or tweet us at extratimenews.
Let's do it.
So obviously the other big news of the football week is the women's national team's squad was announced. Like we said last week, we are going to discuss it. Macdara was at the press conference. We'll have actually a little listen first to Vera Pauw as she was discussing her squad selection.
No, we trained because we had to manage the load. Before we had sessions with playing the boys team, that was in June. Players were off season, they needed to gain rhythm. So we brought in also all the players that came back from England or wherever in the world and being based in Ireland. And this time we have played 11 aside with a lead-up, of course, and then a football conditioning session 6v6 so that we could manage the load. For example, the Shelbourne players did not do the 6v6, but only big so that they could start their motor again after the Champions League.
And Thursday's game, it's like a playoff for a playoff. It's a really big game.
It's a final. We feel it's a final.
Yeah. Can your players need to embrace this opportunity and being favourites, playing in front of this big stadium? I'm sure they'll.
Yeah, I want to repeat. I don't, and that's true. I'm not downplaying. I don't see us as favourites. I see that this is a big game, and it will be very difficult to get a result. Because the situation is completely different than the first game. I hope you remember that we scored early, and I hope you remember how we've been under pressure later in the game. So it is a really hard game, but we will be ready. We will do everything we can to get a result.
Vera, do you have to do anything to prepare them to play in front of a full house, full stadium? It's not something that they're all very, very used to.
This squad is special. This squad is so special. We've played in front of a big crowd in Sweden, in Finland, and everybody was saying, like, will this bring up the pressure for them? We've played almost full house at home. And these players are independent of that. Of course, we work a lot on being independent on it. It's not coming by itself. But I've never seen a team responding so well on different circumstances than this team. They're so focused, they really know what they're doing on the pitch. And we see if that's good enough. But no, I think it will only be a boost for us.
Because between now and Thursday, the talk around the team will build, the country will start talking about it. People who aren't even that into women's football will realise that this is a chance and this is a big game. Mm-hmm. Do you have to separate the team from that, or do you have to get them to embrace that?
We have earned this position. So why would you neglect it? This is us. This is what we earned in over the last years. Not now these 2 years that I've been in charge, 2.5 years, almost 3 years already. But 20 years. In 2008, this team qualified for playoffs for the Euros. Anja O'Gorman was already in that squad as 16-year-old. She was. This team has grown step by step. And now we're in a position that everybody expects something from us. That's what we want. But we will be realistic. We know what we can do. We know our limits. We found our limits. That is why we played so many big opponents last year. We know our limits and we know that we are growing. But again, we will not put on pants of too big size. I've said that before, because those pants will end up on your ankles. And we can only succeed if we are realistic. Yeah.
So that was the voice of Vera Pauw and our own reporter, Macdara Ferris, at the press conference. Obviously, Macdara, before we chat about the football aspect, she obviously delved into her personal life a little bit. It was the first time meeting the media since she discussed her sexual assault.
Yeah, so she made that statement back in July, and so it's first, she hasn't actually met her squad yet. So and it was the first time she'd talked to the media. She was on RTE during the Euros and kind of talked about it. So so it was kind of, we were talking about the permutations of qualifying, and then she was kind of asked how she was after the summer, and then she was quite open about talking about how she feels kind of like a weight has been lifted off her shoulders, having she's had this secret in her life, she said, for kind of 35 years, but she was really appreciative of the warmth she felt from the people across Ireland, which is why she kind of went on RTE, she said, and she got great support from her own players who were in touch with her. But, she says that her relationship has kind of changed with people, but she still wants to be, the coach. But she says she's a better person since then, because, this was something that she felt was weighing down. So she kind of was putting it out there, if anyone else is in the same situation, they kind of need to deal with it and look for help and don't be kind of judged on these things. So she said she's now more open, kind of confident with people. So yeah, it was a bit of a different press conference, but she spoke with, I say, very, very openly and kind of quite warmly, and she was she was really passionate about where the team are at the minute, because it's such a big game. They're on the cusp of getting to the playoff, and they're pretty much, if they get a result on Thursday, they will be in the playoff. But as long as they don't lose, they're in a very, very good situation. Do you want me to talk you through what the permutations actually are?
Yeah, I think you can, because you were talking me off air, and it's not as clear cut as maybe the men's football is for the playoff tournaments.
Yeah. So just to get to the playoff, they win on Thursday, then they're there. If they draw against Finland on Thursday and beat Slovakia on Tuesday away, then they get through as well. If they get a draw against Finland, but then lose or draw against Slovakia, then as long as Finland don't beat Sweden at home, the Finnish team are at home, then Ireland go through. However, if they do lose to Finland and beat Slovakia, then again they just need to make sure that Finland don't draw at home to Sweden. So that's kind of it. So really, they just need to avoid defeat, and that puts them in a really, really strong position. Just a reminder, Sweden, the only points that Sweden have dropped in this competition are at home to us when we drew over in Gothenburg. So now obviously they've qualified already, so they're not looking for anything from the game, but. Now, you'll have heard in the clip, Vera disagreed with me about how I suggested that they were favourites. Ireland were favourites for the game. And she was kind of quick to say, kind of disagree. And just to remind people what the result was over there, it was a 2-1 win. Ireland scored kind of early, and she certainly felt they were the second best team. But they're going to be playing in Tallinn in front of a big crowd. And she talked about it there, that the team won't be overawed by that. They've played in front of big crowds in Tallaght Stadium before. The game in Gothenburg was one I was at. There was 15,000 at that game, and they played really well that day. So anyway, that's what Ireland need to do to get to the playoff. But the playoff is not the usual, what we might be used to, kind of home and away against another opposition. So there's 9 groups in UEFA. So the 9 runners-up go through to the playoffs. The 3 best teams from those 9, based on the rankings, they go through to the phase 2. And the other 6 teams then will play off in pairs. So 6 will become 3. And then those 3 will play the 3 teams from phase 1 who haven't had to play a game yet. And these are all one-legged matches, and they are seeded. And so then you have 3 winners will come through that playoff. But only 2 of them go automatically through to the World Cup. And again, that's based on the rankings. So from the 3 teams that go through, the top 2 go through to the World Cup. next year in Australia and New Zealand. And the third team that aren't kind of ranked as high as the other, they go through to a tournament in New Zealand next spring, spring in the Northern Hemisphere, but autumn in the Southern Hemisphere, where there'll be UEFA will have one spot in a 10-team tournament. And there's 3 spots available to there. So they'll basically have a 1 in 3 shot when they go there. So there's a chance we get through to the playoff. We're unlikely to be one of the Phase 1 teams in the UEFA playoff, so we're probably going to have to play one match to play one of the Phase 3 winners, and then depending on rankings, and you can't really tell at this stage, we may end up, as I say, having to go to New Zealand and play matches in Hamilton. They're kind of FIFA are using it as a kind of a warm-up tournament for the World Cup to come later on in the year. So yeah, it is very complicated. So some teams will qualify, will get to the playoffs and play one match and will qualify for the World Cup. And then other teams might have to play 4 to get through, and then might have to go to a tournament in New Zealand. So yeah, it is pretty complicated, but I love the complication of it all.
I'm going to have to listen back to this podcast later on because that was just very complex. But I congratulate you on explaining it very, very well. She also, it was funny because it was interesting listening to her as well and reading the transcript from the press conference. It's talking about permutations and group stage qualification. She kind of did downplay, or she was kind of setting her, what's the right way of saying this? She kind of wasn't totally on board with the idea of a women's nations league. She kind of thought that maybe this could create an unfair advantage for, in particular, tier 3 and tier 1 nations, and the tier 2, where she considers Ireland might be left behind a little bit. If you want to explain more on that point.
Yeah, so it's not confirmed, but people will have seen, including in Ireland's group, because we hammered Georgia I think it was 11-0 and 9-0 anyway. Yeah. That there's been some matches with some absolutely huge scores, which isn't great. So there's been discussions about, well, okay, what can we do about that? Should there be a 2-tier system? But it seems like UEFA are going with a 3-tier system, which is probably good maybe for the bottom sides. They'll play more competitive matches, and we've seen in the UEFA Nations League that teams have kind of come through that. But there's 4 tiers in the Nations League, and even the teams in the bottom Nations League group, they have an opportunity to go through into the playoff and actually qualify for the likes of the European Championship. Where it seems like UEFA are going to do tier 1 with the top 16 sides, and Ireland sit outside of that. So we'd be in the same group as kind of Scotland and Wales. And then if you won that second tier, having played those games over, that 18-month period, you then need to play a second place team from the top tier. And that's going to make it, she certainly thinks it'll make it more difficult for Ireland teams to qualify from that. Like she did say that the intention is right, what they're trying to do, to try and improve the teams. But I think because we're a little bit in that middle. So actually, it's something that Jonathan Hill is speaking with UEFA President Alexander Seferin with this week. So the FAI have kind of said this is an issue, and can we have a look at this? So it's not set in stone, but she described it as 5 to 12, as in it's 5 to midnight on this. That it looks like the decision might be made, and then there won't be any kind of wriggle room for friendlies. And people may remember that Ireland actually went on quite a long run where we lost quite a lot of matches in a row, because when Vera Pauw came in, she wanted to play the better sides in friendlies. And so we played loads of the top seeded teams. And it took us until probably the game against Australia, which was, I think, the 6th or 7th game at that stage, where we kind of turned it around. And it certainly seemed to help in this qualification period when we played the likes of Sweden, and we played Finland, because we played a lot of those kind of better teams before, and there won't be the opportunities to play the friendlies if they have this similar UEFA Nations League system, where I think in the men's game, I think people are probably happy enough to not have those friendlies, because hey, how many times are we going to play Oman, and that type of thing, and it's been hard to get the high profile friendlies. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see just what it's about. Now, she was very much concentrating on the Finland game. She talked a little bit with the Sunday newspapers about, she was asked about a new contract, and she was like, "Well, we haven't kind of had discussions," and it was like very much focused on Finland, and it kind of has to be the case. And say they pick up 3 points on Thursday, and they're in the playoff, and they'll have that match, and say the potential that it might be a further playoff earlier in the year as well. So, it's been a discussion a couple of times, also a little bit about the Women's National League. We talked to Amanda Budden last week about Shelburne in the Champions League and how difficult it was for them, and it's very much a two-tier system from that point of view. And players, Shelburne in particular, they've lost some good players to England, where there's no compensation, because there's no FIFA compensation for players in the women's game. And again, that's something that they're having a look at, and there is some discussions, and Ireland and the FAI are certainly impressed upon that, because it's a situation where Brexit has are making our players more favourable to bring to the WSL in England, because of the common travel area. As in any profession, if you're Irish, you can just travel and work over in England, and that's fine. Where it's a little bit harder, there's a little bit more paperwork for teams, be it in the men's game or in the women's game, to bring players in from the EU, because they're not part of the travel area and because of Brexit. And so it's a situation which was landed a little bit more on us than maybe in the past. So the press conference was quite lengthy. It was one that was probably about 50 minutes conversation with Vera on quite a diverse range of topics, as we've discussed.
Yeah, and just on that, in terms of the home base players, obviously we were talking last week, Amanda Budden, about the home base squad, and she did reference that as well in her press conference.
Yeah, just to get them back in together, because what they're trying to do is the WNL players are very much in season, where the WSL their season doesn't even start. So there were some Shelburne players involved, but they didn't do quite as much game time. Like everything, they're all training with their GPS, so managing their minutes. So I think it was a case of just getting those players together. She named a 28 player squad, which is quite large, which for this double header, with the Slovakia game to come on Tuesday.
Yeah, and even just running through the squad, like obviously it's at full strength nearly. Like maybe a couple of noticeable absentees. Obviously, Savannah McCarthy and Parviana Jarstan, they both were injured. Maybe Niamh Farley as well. Unlucky not to get in. Obviously, made a recent move to Parma. But like if you're one of the females in the squad now, you are really looking forward to this game. Like this is the biggest game now, really, in Irish women's history. Like to get this game, get to a playoff. I know the playoff system is complex rather, but this is a big game, and I know we're putting more pressure on them. I know you asked, are you the favourites going in? But they really are the favourites. Like Finland, as we know, had a bad Euros. There's obviously was a difficult group, like you mentioned to me before. But favourites going in, manager sacked. You're not going to get a better opportunity to really nail down a playoff spot here for this tournament, this World Cup.
Yeah, you got to go back. The 42, Emma Duffy had a piece today on the 2008 playoff in Iceland for the 2009 competition, and like it was a two-legged game, and the game in Iceland was played on the frozen pitch. It just ended awful. So yeah, this is the biggest game, I think, because Ireland at home, the home record's pretty good. Playing in front of a sold out Tallaght Stadium, like it's sold out in about 30 minutes. These are the games that they want to play in. So yeah, I think looking at who's maybe available, I think the likes of Heather Payne, I think, is becoming she's really important. I think Kyra Carusa, she's out injured, so she's missing. And Vera Pauw talked about Denise and Katie McCabe. She said, we've got these two star players, and having those players in the team, playing at a really high level, and we've loads of others playing it in the WSL, which is just going from strength to strength. So the only fear is that those players are only back in preseason training, so that's the difficulty. Finland come. But the Euros are a while back now, so I think the benefit of those kind of three games that they played, I think they're in the same group as the Netherlands as well. The benefits of that probably won't help them. But they do have players playing in England as well, which who were out of season. But yeah, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it on Thursday.
Yeah, it's going to be a cracking game. I think you mentioned there about a lot of players playing England. I think it was at Birmingham last season. The WSL had about 6 Irish players, I think it was, at one stage. I think they're all still there, actually. It's like they haven't already signed. And Ryan Dobbs was in there last year. And Jamie Finn went over there, Michelle. So they have a lot of Irish players playing WSL. Just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, you've Harriet Scott's there. You've Louise Quinn, you've Lucy Quinn. So Jamie Finn as well has gone over there as well. So yeah.
Before I wrap up then this week's episode, a quick look at the fixtures. Obviously, we're recording Sunday night as it's nearly pushing 11:15. So by the time this pod comes out, the Monday games we played, but really quickly, obviously, Shells and Derry, Sligo Rovers and Dock and Bowes Pats, a game I was hoping to get to, but unfortunately we're training, so I can't make it there. Obviously, the Monday night games. But by the time this comes out, obviously, it'll be match day 29. And a couple of big games, obviously, in the Premier Division, running really quick. Bowes Rovers, obviously, is the standout. I was just thinking, not a lot of coverage actually around that. I don't know if it's because of maybe it was Rovers in the Conference League, but usually when the Bowes Rovers game coming down, it's kind of the big thing in the media. I thought maybe the moment.
Yeah, I think with the Conference League, the FAI Cup games of the weekend and the Monday night fixtures, but and like it's not one on television, so
yeah.
I think as people listen to this, it'll be building up to it. So I think Rovers are getting maybe a smaller ticket allocation than last time. They're only getting 350 tickets in the away end. So and the demolition. The demolition crew have been in for the Connacht Street. I was looking. We had Eddie Lennon was taking photographs for us, and Conor Ryan was there on Friday for the Bohemians Cup game against Luke, and there were tickets with the demolition and in the background. So yeah, it'll be. I don't know what stage the Connacht Streets will be by the time that game comes around on Friday, but there'll be less terracing there than currently now.
And obviously the other games in the Premier Division, Derry City, UCD, Pats Harps, Dundalk Shells, and Sligo Drogheda. That'd be an interesting game, actually, I think, out the weekend's games. I think Shelburne going to Dundalk would be an interesting game because, like, obviously Dundalk got the kind of stuffing taken out and by the defeat to Rovers, that kind of basically ended the league charge we mentioned already. But, like, Shells probably would fancy themselves going to Dundalk, get a result there, possibly.
Well, Shells had a good cup win up in Bonagee on Friday night. But yeah, Dundalk will be looking to get back to winning ways. Well, coming from the Shamrock Rovers game, so it'll be Stephen O'Donnell versus Damien Duff.
Yeah, midfield maestros against each other. Have a look down really quick down the First Division. Bray v Athlone, Treaty United Cove, Wexford Waterford, and Cork City Longford Town. And as I mentioned earlier on, this Thursday will be the women's team are playing against Finland, which I cannot wait for. It'll be a great game. Macdara, thanks as always coming on.
No, delighted, enjoyed it.
Yep. And we'll chat to you all next week.